things we were coping with before get kind of swept underneath, but they shouldn't be, both because they help inform the current new crises and because they're crises unto themselves.
We had talked shortly before we went on the air, and I mentioned that sometimes I feel like I'm experiencing PTSD with the barrage of news that we're getting and the substance that we're getting. Do you think that's possible? Do you think the American public is just rocking on its heels because of all of this?
I mean, absolutely, because there's almost no one that this administration is hurting. There's the whiplash of the news and a lot of very terrifying stories, about war, the idea that our president is erratic, is, furious, is corrupt, is firing people. There's that, but there's also just, do you know anyone who's an immigrant? Do you know anyone who's not white? Do you know anyone who's a woman? Do you know anyone who's a teacher? Do you know anybody who's losing their health care? Like, odds are pretty good, yeah, you do. And that includes the Trump fans, the people who voted for him. They're also getting screwed over by Trump. And some of them, have expressed their displeasure, and I think others are keeping quiet out of this fear that somehow Trump goes and, long walks in Hillary or, some sort of awful Democratic travesty. But, the pain of this country is just greater, and the fear, and, and the protest. And the protest aspect is good, but yeah, if God willing I don't even know what to say about get out of this situation, because we're really going to be dealing with the repercussions of this for decades. But I think it's normal to feel anxious and to feel depressed and to feel upset. And if you feel those things, like, let yourself feel them, like, take a break. I mean, it's like, I work all the time, I talk about this stuff all the time, so people think I'm, like, against taking a break. It's like, you gotta do something for yourself, or you're not going to be able to get through.
Again, trying to turn away from politics just a little bit. As you were going through the book and getting it prepared for the print version that is out now, we mentioned earlier that many of the things you wrote about 4 or 5 years ago apply today. What struck you as you were going through it about the things that haven't changed that are really important to us? What are the things that well, you go ahead, answer that, and I'll follow up.
I mean, it's always weird to reread your own work. I mean, I guess one of the strangest feelings I had, I wouldn't describe it exactly as nostalgia for these times, because I write about very depressing things, but this sort of sense that, we really have turned a historical corner. And I think we all knew that when Trump was inaugurated, things were going to be very different. And I think, if anything, this just shows you need to take care of these structural problems, these deep-seated issues, before they culminate into something like the election of Donald Trump. There are a couple essays in there that sort of stood out, like the one I wrote about paranoia and conspiracy theories as part of American life. I was like, wow, like that really developed in a way that is just breathtakingly out of control now, and that's something that I think we need to explore in more detail.
One of the words that keeps popping up in my rereading of it is the word exploitation. You see that in many different arenas, don't you?
Yeah.
Young people, business, you name it, and people are being exploited.
Yeah, and it's very hard to avoid. And that's one of the reasons I focused on higher education to a certain degree, because that was always thought of as a path out of hardship, out of poverty, and out of exploitation. If you achieve at a certain level, you get a good job, you get security, you get power. And if there's a subject this book is about, it's really about power. I don't think anyone has that security anymore. It doesn't matter if you have a PhD or a GED. Odds are you are working at a job that makes it difficult to pay your bills. And I say that because most PhDs are working in temporary positions, working as adjuncts. You have certain advantages, because in America they punish you if you don't get a college degree. They hold that against you on the job market, even if that college degree has absolutely nothing to do with the skills required to do your job. We didn't used to need a college degree for all these things. And I'm against credentialism. I wish jobs would stop requiring those. I think they're enormously expensive and unnecessary, and in that way, weirdly, I'm aligned with Donald Trump. That's the only thing that McDonald's. But yeah, that's something that continues to this day, and the more that people consolidate power and the less accountability we have, the worse it's going to get.
You would talk about privilege as well, and tying that in with education. I remember a story, and I don't have the details quite right, but kids going to school at Harvard from very privileged families, and what the families are entitled to in order to get those kids into the school. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, I mean, something like, well over half, I think, of Harvard, the Harvard entering class I referenced, have families that make something over $200,000, often quite more than that, in the millions. And almost nobody with an income of below like $45,000 gets in. That's a very small part. The median income is around, $52,000. And so we don't have a representative body entering Harvard. We have people like Jared Kushner, whose family, gave an enormous amount of money for him to get in. That's the kind of people we have going. But that prestige, that name brand, is still held up as some kind of achievement, and I think it's really unmerited. And it kind of parallels the geographical inequality, where if you're, successful in New York, that means one thing. That means that it really matters. It's really important. You must have something smart to say. If you're doing the same kind of work in Missouri and you're staying there by choice, then people are shocked that you have all your teeth. I mean, it's really incredible double standard, and it's not beneficial to a healthy nation. We should look at what people do, what they contribute, how they treat others, and not how much money they have, where they went to school, all this nonsensical stuff, because it's no longer a reflection of merit.
And when some of those kids get out of school, they network with each other and they help each other, while the rest of us need help, don't get it.